It starts right now. A Renewed Mind, hosted by Dr. H. Dante Duckett, pastor of New Kingdom Faith Christian Church. Position yourself right now to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, here's our host, Dr. H. Dante Duckett.
Hello and welcome to another podcast of A Renewed Mind. I am your host, Dr. H. Dante Duckett, and I'm so excited that you made it here tonight and decided to listen to what we have in store tonight. I think it's going to be something that's going to continue the process of renewing your mind. It's going to put you in a position to be the best version of yourself. I believe that's what the enemy has been trying to do most of your life, is to ensure that you never reach that point where you are in the position to be the best version of yourself. God created you out of his image. And I believe his image means a lot more to him than it does to some of us. He wants us to uphold that image that he created us in. And I believe that's the reason why Paul made that declaration, to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. In order to be in the image of God, in order for us to be like God, see like God, act like be like God, and reflect who God is in our life, we need to transform our mind. Our mind has to constantly consistently be in a transformational process. It has to be renewed daily. Paul makes this bold statement in scripture where he says, I die daily. And I believe that's part of his renewing process. And I don't want to get too deep scripturally, but you have to understand that you're going to have to die to self. Dying to self is the opportunity in which you literally begin that process of renewing your mind. That's where we're trying to get to. That's the part that I believe is really going to separate you from everyone else. Most persons aren't able to let go of who they are and really truly find their authentic self, because they've been holding on to something that wasn't real. It's something that they made up. It's something that they've been portraying to everyone else. We hear the statement, wearing masks. We've been wearing full costumes. We're not just wearing a mask. We've been wearing full costumes. We're not really the person that we're portraying to other people. I believe the process of removing the mask, removing the costume, has to start with renewing your mind. It has to start at that point. So today we're talking about that. How do we really uncover and begin to operate in the authentic self? The authentic self, where the mask is gone, the costume is fully disposed of, and what they see is the real you. It's who they see and what they hear from you. Is that the real you, or is that the hurt you? Or is that the abused you? Or is that the bitter you? Or is that the you that should be looking into the future, that sees a future that looks better, a future that looks whole? A person that's renewing their mind sees their future more than they reflect on their past. They'll reflect on the past will keep you from renewing your mind. But when you project your vision to the future, you know that the only way that you're going to get to that future, that destiny, that prophesied place, is that you're going to have to renew your mind. At some point, the authentic you is going to have to come out. At some point, the authentic you is going to have to be on full display. At some point, the authentic you is going to have to show up. But that begins with renewing your mind. We've spoke about it many times. I believe I'm actually on episode 20. I'm excited about that. I made it all the way to episode 20. Listen, it's easy to start something, but it takes some consistency, some fortitude to continue it. I shared with a congregation on yesterday. I talked about the fact that a plane will literally use 30 to 40% of its fuel capacity just to launch. Just to launch, a plane will use 30 to 40% of its fuel capacity just to get off the ground. Listen to me. Many persons are able to get off the ground. They're able to launch something, listen to me, but they're unable to sustain what they launched. because they didn't have the capacity, they didn't fill up enough with enough fuel to keep them in the air. A renewed mind understands, listen, when you launch, you are launching to stay. You're not launching to come back down. That's why so many persons fail when they start businesses. They launch, they got a lot of energy going up, but it's very difficult to sustain. As a pastor, I've been pastoring going on almost 5 years, and let me tell you, the easiest thing was to launch. The toughest thing is to stay in position. A renewed mind helps you to remain in position. A renewed mind will help you stay on task. You wonder why you can't finish things. You wonder why you're not a finisher. You wonder why you got so many things dangling around. You got so many loose ends all over the place. You start, you stop, you start, you stop. It's because your mind hasn't been renewed. You're not able to sustain the momentum. And the only way you can sustain momentum is you're going to have to renew your mind. Because when it gets hard, a renewed mind says, I got to keep going. But a person that's not renewing their mind or has not begun the process of renewing their mind, the moment it gets hard, they quit. A renewed mind has fortitude. It has the attribute of consistency always at the forefront. A renewed mind will never allow a hard day or a bad day to keep them from getting up and going back into the office or going back into that plan or continuing that business plan that they started or working that vision board. That's what a renewed mind does. That's what we're talking about tonight. A renewed mind that's willing to stick it in there and stay. Stick and stay. You can't get to the other side. You're unable to make it to the other side of the finish line, or at least get to the point where you're sustaining and you're at a point where you're able to altitude that you're able to cruise in until you renew your mind. What do you mean, Pastor? Why do I have to renew my mind to stay? Because when you get up there, you're going to have to deal with things that you never thought you would have to deal with. And if your mind is not renewed, you're going to come down as quickly as you went up. Listen to me. That's the power of a renewed mind. All of these great men and women, believe me, had to renew their mind. All of these great inventors or great entrepreneurs, they had to renew their mind. They failed multiple times, but they still maintained their fortitude. They still maintained the courage to keep going, and that happens with a renewed mind. That's one of the major attributes that most persons overlook when they're renewing their mind. A renewed mind knows how to accomplish its mission. A renewed mind will never quit when things get tough. A renewed mind will always show up, even when they don't feel like it, because they understand that their consistency is the greatest attribute that they need to have on display. I've said this many times, and I don't know if I said it here in this podcast, but I'm going to say it here. I'm going to say it now. Many of us, because we haven't been renewing our mind, listen to me, your greatest consistency is your inconsistency. You're consistently inconsistent. That's what happens when you're not renewing your mind. That's why you can't show up to work on time. That's why you're always missing deadlines. That's why you're always procrastinating. Procrastination is a byproduct of an individual who has decided not to renew their mind. You want to see somebody that's always procrastinating? Come on, because you know why? I can talk about that. That's me. That was me. Always waiting till something goes wrong. Always waiting to the end. Always waiting till things happen or when things come up against you and then you really pushed in a corner and then that's when you start working. That's a person. That was me when I was not trying to renew my mind. Doesn't mean you're going to fully get through it. Doesn't mean that you're going to fully be able to overcome that season of procrastination, but you know you're on track to literally get in a position to make sure you get to where God called you to be. That's what a renewed mind does. A renewed mind wants to be the best version of themselves. So let's take a look. Last week we were on the couch, right? Last week we were on the couch. I set you on that couch and I told you to sit back, think about what had happened to you, what went wrong, what issue you had to deal with hurt, with pain. that you have yet to process. You may have to go back many years. You may even started going back when you was a child, when things happened in your home that shouldn't have happened in your home. Those things happened. I can't change them. You can't change them. But when you start renewing your mind, listen to me. This is going to mess you up. You're going to start using that which was intended to hurt you to actually prosper you. Oh my! What do you mean, Pastor? The thing the enemy tried to do to hurt you, God is going to show you how to work it in your favor. How can I work abuse in my favor? You can work abuse in your favor by ensuring, listen, the next person that you know that's coming up or going or dealing with the same issue that you dealt with, you won't allow them to stay in that season. You're going to show them the path out. That's it. A renewed mind looks for the opportunity that used to hurt them, looks for the opportunity of the thing that hurt them to show it how it could heal them. A renewed mind. So that's what we talk about. If we have any first time listeners on our podcast tonight, we are renewing our mind. We want to be the best version of ourselves. Listen, you can check us out on pray.com. Go ahead, go to that app, go to your app store. All my iPhone users, just want to let y'all know I'm a big iPhone user. I'm a big iPhone fan. I know Android folk, they probably rolling their eyes at this podcast right now, but I'm a big iPhone. So go to your app store, go to your app store, go to your Google store. Look up the app, pray.com. Make sure you subscribe to the app. You can get all my episodes on pray.com or go to Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com. Just type in my name, H. Dante, Duante, Duckett, and you'll be able to download all of my podcasts. You can go on Spotify and listen. You can go on Apple podcasts. Listen, we're everywhere. And look, a renewed mind is changing the way people think. That's what this podcast is doing. It's changing the way we think about ourselves, think about our assignments, think about where we're going. Where you are, listen to me, where you are right now is not the place that God has designed for you to stay. I'm not talking about physically. I'm not now you may be in a position where it's time for you to move and you're just afraid to, but I'm here to tell you, even spiritually, mentally, this is not the place that God has for you. This may be just a layover. It may just be the bridge to your next place, but I'm here to tell you, if you're listening to this, where you are, don't settle. A renewed mind never settles. It's always looking to grow. You look in scripture and you show me where God allowed any of his great men or women to settle. They never settled. They were always trying to grow. They were always trying to prosper. They were always trying to lead others. The moment you set up and settle, then you know what has happened to you is that you begin to not think that there is more inside of you. I'm here to tell you, a renewed mind knows that there's more inside of them. A renewed mind understands that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. A renewed mind knows that they are half full and not half empty. A renewed mind will make sure that they do not settle for nothing less than being full. Anything less than being full, you're not going to settle for. What you mean, Pastor? That means, listen, you're on your job. A renewed mind says, listen, this may be my job. It may be paying my bills, but this is not my destiny. A renewed mind will understand that, guess what? My job is not my destiny. It may be the means to get to my destiny, but it's not my destiny. That's what a renewed mind, it understands the power of making sure that, guess what? They don't settle for just anything. They look for the path that most persons haven't been able to go through. They don't look for the path where everybody's walked. They don't look for the same path that everybody's walking. Wide is the gate that leads to destruction, but narrow is the road. Narrow is the road. Most folk don't want to take the narrow road because they always want to hang around with everybody else. Most folk don't want to take the narrow road because they always want company. Most folk don't want the narrow road because they don't like being lonely. Come on, I'm here to tell you, you renewing your mind, you're going to be taking the narrow road. You're going to be taking a road that's less traveled. You're going to be taking a road where you're going to have to blaze the trail yourself. What God has for you right now, he hasn't given to anyone else. There's an assignment that's specifically for you. And the only way you're going to be able to accomplish the assignment is you're going to have to renew your mind. Because the moment you get in the thick of it, the enemy is going to put so much on you. He's going to try to do so much to you to make you turn back. The only thing you're going to have in your arsenal is the mindset to say, no matter what, I can't go back. I'm telling you, that's what a renewed mind says. I can't go back. I don't have there's the option of going back is the choice of going back is not even an option in my life. I'm out too far. You're out too deep to go back. In fact, it will take you more time to go back than to reach your destiny. A renewed mind can't go back. You're renewing your mind to understand that guess what? God has more in store for you. You were made in the imago Dei, the image of God. You are the image of him. No matter what they say about you, no matter what they do to you, no matter how they look at you, you are made in the image. The only way you're going to be able to see yourself the way God sees you is you're going to have to renew your mind. A renewed mind will never carry around a defeated mindset. A renewed mind will never allow what someone says about them to stop them. A renewed mind will always press its way through. I think that's where we're going to stay tonight. We're going to launch right there tonight. A renewed mind will always press its way through. A renewed mind will never allow a barrier to be a hindrance. A barrier is just another opportunity for you to go further. A barrier is just another opportunity to show your strength, show you how much what God has put in you. To let the world know, yeah, you can set this up for me to fail if you want to. Come on. But a renewed mind says, I'm going to push past everything you put in my way. Everything you try to use to stop me, I'm going to push past it. Everything you use to try to pull me down, I'm going to climb up. Come on, somebody. I need you to help me. Every time they try to push you down, a renewed mind says, I got more power to get up. I got more power in me to get up than you have power to push me down. That's the power of a renewed mind. A renewed mind will never settle for defeat, never settle for failure. In fact, failure is just another opportunity to get it right. I'm talking to somebody because you're still sitting. You're waddling. You're mad. You're angry. You're upset. You're worrying about who's going to help you. You're worrying about who's going to be there in your corner. You're wondering why nobody's really there cheering you on. You don't need another cheerleader. You need a renewed mind. Because guess what? Many of them cheerleaders don't even really want you to succeed. Many of those persons that say they want you to be successful are really praying against you. Praying, P-R-E-Y, praying against you. They're not trying to help you. You don't need someone cheering you or push you in the back. All you need is a renewed mind because honestly, the only person you can depend on is God. That's the only person you can depend on. And God is depending on you to get it done. Because you know the one thing about God? God will not force you to do anything. He won't force you to do anything. He gives you the vision. He gives you the confirmation, but it's up to you to get up. A renewed mind knows it has to get up. A renewed mind understands it can't stay down long. Too many of you right now are stuck in emotional rabbit holes and it's taking you too much energy to climb out. That's the reason why it's very difficult for you to sustain any kind of momentum because you've used so much energy trying to get out of the hole that you're in. By the time you get out, you don't have enough energy to sustain the momentum that God has put in you to fulfill the vision that God gave you. So don't go down that hole. Renew your mind, come up out, stay out, throw dirt in that ditch, keep moving, throw dirt in the ditch, make sure it's all the way down, make sure that dirt is stacked down in there so you'll never go back down in that hole again. The enemy uses so many things in your past to make you reflect on it And then when you start reflecting on it, you start getting angry. When you start getting angry, you start getting bitter. And then when you start getting bitter, you start taking it out on everybody else. And soon before you know it, 2, 3, 4, 5 months have passed, 6 months have passed, and you're still in the same position because you went somewhere you had no business going, to your past. You don't belong back there. A renewed mind is always pressing its way forward. A renewed mind knows how to faith it forward. That's the series that we started this week. If you want to actually check me out, my sermon, any of my sermons, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/New Kingdom Faith. All of our sermons are there. You'll be able to see all of our sermons and look up some of the work that we're doing here at the church, at the ministry. We got Leading by Feeding campaign where we're feeding our entire neighborhood, our entire community every week. We're giving out literally, we're serving almost thousands of people, thousands of families, thousands of persons a week. We definitely love for your support. Go and check us out at facebook.com/New Kingdom Faith. But listen, a renewed mind doesn't stay in the past. In fact, it refuses to even look back. Person say, yeah, it's good to look back. It's good to know your history. Yes, it is good to know your history. I will never disagree with you needing to know your history. But I'm here to tell you, if you stay back there too long, you'll find yourself delayed as usual. Because many of you that's listening to this podcast, you're in delay. You're in delay mode. You're in delay. You're staying in, and no one's delaying you. There's no inclement weather keeping you from getting to the other side or getting to the place where God has you. You're in a self-inflicted delay. And this is where we got to go. It's time for you to get your finger off the pause button and push play. In fact, play has already been pushed. It's time for you to just release the pause button so you can move forward. Play, listen to this. Everybody listen to this podcast. Play, the button play is never going backwards. Oh, see, this sounds very simple, but it's one of the most profound things you will ever. The button play is never going backwards. The button play is always moving the reel, moving the tape, moving the disc forward. Take your finger off the pause button so you can play forward, so you can go forward. So you can move where God has called you to move through a renewed mind. God will not allow you to get to your destiny, to get to your vision, to fulfill the vision without a renewed mind. Because if he allows you to get there and your mind is not renewed, you're going to sabotage everything he's gotten for you, everything he's given for you. Because guess what? You're still operating from a mind that's not renewed. You're still operating out of hurt. You're still operating out of the pain. You're still operating out of lack. And anyone that operates out of those areas in their life is going to do major damage to the persons they connect with in their future. Come on. This is where we got to go from this point on. This is episode number 20. It's time to really move now. You've gotten all the podcast that's going to help me set you up to where we're going right now. It's time for you to be the best version of yourself. It's time for you to be the best version of yourself now. Not tomorrow, not next week. It begins, somebody say, right now. Come on, say it, right now. Whatever you have to do to begin the process of renewing your mind, you need to begin it right now. That means, guess what? Each week at 7 o'clock, each week at 8 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time, you want to get fresh bread. You want to get a fresh word of a renewed mind. You need to find your place, get yourself some notepads, get something to write down with, and begin the process of renewing your mind. If you haven't heard the rest of my podcast, go download the rest of them so you can begin the process of renewing your mind. 8 o'clock, Monday evening, Eastern Standard Time. Wherever you're listening to this, You need to find your place and make this the place that you start, because this is the time that you're going to start renewing your mind. This is where it starts, right here. Right here. And each day, you're going to get closer and closer and closer to a renewed mind. It's time for you to become the best version of yourself. What do you need to do? You ask yourself that question. Don't look for somebody else. You know what you need to do. You know exactly what you need to do. You know exactly what you need to start doing, and you know exactly what you need to stop doing. Come on, talk back to me. You know exactly what you need to start doing. You need to start writing down what you need to do every day. You need to come up, you need to wake up with a plan, not just haphazardly going through the day. You need to wake up, put down, get your to-do list together. When you get up, you get dressed, you get to the point where you put your to-do list together every single day. I am going to accomplish this, and this today. And you make sure you accomplish it. That begins the process. Of course, I should have, of course, made this first, but I kind of assumed, but I can't assume that's even helping me right now. Of course, you need to spend time with the Lord early in the morning. Early in the morning, the moment you get up. God, what do you want me to do today? God, what steps, what options, what things do you want me to accomplish today? Because I can't trust in myself. I can't lean on my own understanding. I got to let him direct my path. The steps of a good man are ordered every single day. Your steps have to be ordered, so you can become the best version of you. No longer will you allow yourself to be haphazardly sent in directions that you have no business going in. So back to the point, you know what you need to do. And you know what you need to stop doing. Habits that you have no business participating in. Being around people you know aren't going anywhere. You know it. But you know they're not going anywhere. You know they're not any good for you. But you're still with them, and you're wondering why you're not going anywhere. You're wondering why things aren't happening. It's because the renewed mind, since you decided not to renew your mind, you decided to connect with somebody else's mind, and y'all both going in the same direction, and that's nowhere. A renewed mind cuts off unfruitful attachments. Fruitless attachments. They're not bearing any fruit. Why? You connected to them. Doesn't mean you got to be rude. You can be nice. But I can't be connected if you're not bearing fruit. That's how I become the best version of me. Connect with persons that are bearing fruit. Connect with persons that know how to get the job done. Connect with persons that know how to value your time. That's how you become the best version of you. If they don't value their time, they're not going to value your time. It's time for you to become the best version of you. And the best version of you starts right now with the process of renewing your mind. And the process of renewing your mind is deciding, guess what? I ain't going back. We can't go back. You want to listen to that sermon, go to our Facebook page, newkingdomfaith.com, the Eva service, 9:30 or the 11:30 service. We can't go back. You can't go back. Pandemic is already in. It's already there. You're in the thick of it. You can't go back to when the pandemic started. You can't. In fact, if your mind was renewed, you would be prospering in the pandemic. But that's another podcast. There's no reason you shouldn't be prospering in this pandemic. No reason. I don't care what job you got laid off from. I don't care what has happened. I am here to tell you that you could be prospering. You should be. God expects you to prosper in this pandemic. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. A renewed mind knows how to prosper when everybody else is suffering. The crying, woe is me. Why is all this happening to me? A renewed mind will never allow a situation or circumstance to control their destiny. That's the power and the process of a renewed mind. Listen, It's time for you to become the best version of you. And it begins with you renewing your mind. Paul declares, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Come on, make sure you hear next week when I talk about a renewed mind knows how to prosper even in a pandemic. Ha, I love it. It knows how to prosper in a pandemic because a renewed mind will never settle. In fact, the renewed mind knows that the pandemic was exactly what they needed to be able to get to where they need to be. Listen, you've just been listening to another podcast of Renewed Mind. Thank you so much for joining me. Come on, you cannot settle for less. It's time for you to be the best version of yourself. God bless you.
You have just been blessed by the transformational teaching of Dr. H. Dante Duckett. Tune in next time to another segment of A Renewed Mind.